Huffman, no, do not. Okay, I'm not a threat. I don't have a gun. Okay, don't treat me like I'm a threat. This is what I would call the anatomy of a cover-up. This is unacceptable. I'm sorry, it is. When I agreed to work with you on the work group, we talked about the importance of transparency and accountability. And here, what we are seeing is business as usual. And you know this, Amelia. You know this, Jacob. I don't know how you guys slept that night. I couldn't sleep at night. Tears.
Police search warrant! Police search warrant!
Hands! Show me your hand! He's got a gun!
Got fired! Drop the fucking gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
Help me, guys!
Police search warrant! Police search warrant!
Police search warrant! Hands!
Get on the ground! Get on the fucking ground! Shots fired! Drop the fucking gun! He's got another one! He's got a gun! Drop the gun! Police search warrant! Police search warrant!
Police search warrant!
Get on the ground! Get on the fucking ground! Shots fired! Drop the fucking gun! Got another one! Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
1280 ambulance to the 7th floor.
And 3 locations in the city of Minneapolis. And they asked the Minneapolis Police Department SWAT team to execute the search warrant at 3 apartments in the building on Marquette. Both a no-knock and a knock search warrant were obtained for those locations so that the SWAT team could assess the circumstances and make the best possible decision about entry. As you saw in the video, the team approached the door and they used a key. There was no need to force entry. There was no breaching. There was no ram involved. They used a key to open the door and announced police search warrant before they crossed the threshold. The team was announcing police search warrant as they proceeded into the apartment. Their job was to make entry deliberately to assess any threats that were inside. As they proceeded toward the back of the apartment, as you saw in the video, there was a couch, and you can see that there's a form under a blanket or a comforter that begins to rise up. The officers were approaching. They were giving commands to show your hands, and as they got close, you can see, along with an individual emerging from under the blanket, the barrel of a gun, which comes out from the blanket and becomes more fully exposed as you move frame by frame through the video. And then the still shot shows the image of the firearm in the subject's hands at the best possible moment when the lighting was fully on him. That's the moment when the officer had to make a split-second decision to assess the circumstances and determine whether he felt like there was an articulable threat, that the threat was of imminent harm, great bodily harm or death, and that he needed to take action right then to protect himself and his partners. Ultimately, that decision of whether that threshold was met will be examined by the county attorney's office that reviews this case. The homicide investigation in St. Paul is ongoing. Mr. Locke was not named in the original search warrant, and so at this point it is unclear if or how he is connected to St. Paul's investigation, but they are continuing to work dedicatedly on that case. They were on scene. They did search and recover items that they believe are of evidentiary value in their homicide investigation, and that work continues. The investigation by the BCA is ongoing. The Minneapolis Police Department will also make an assessment of policy and procedure violations in a separate internal administrative investigation. There are multiple jurisdictions and multiple investigations bound up in this discussion, and that makes information sharing extremely complicated. I want to be direct with you. Due to the multi-jurisdictional considerations, I am limited in what I can say. I'm going to take questions, as will the mayor, and we will do our best.
Chief, this was a cacophony. This young man, presumably sleeping, had very little time to react. He was probably stunned. I mean, are you going to look at your policies and possibly call this justifiable in the wake of everyone seeing this footage?
So we will definitely look at all of the events in this case that led up to this incident. We will be re-examining our policies, of course. Our agency is committed to meeting best practices, and tactical operations among agencies vary wildly. There is no single best practice for making these kind of entries. And even among agencies in the Twin Cities, agencies may use different tactics on different search warrants, and different agencies have different policies. So certainly I think that will be a valuable conversation.
Was Mr. Locke a suspect in any crime at all?
I cannot speak for the investigation in St. Paul because I don't have the facts of that case. But St. Paul is working to understand the evidence that they collected and the underlying facts of their homicide investigation. And I have been assured by Chief Axtell that they will make information public as soon as they have it available.
Chief, define threshold, because we can clearly see in the video that no words were spoken by those officers before they entered the door. Yesterday you said that they were loudly announcing their presence and knocking at the door before, but that didn't happen. We saw it all in the video.
Right. So in the video, they open the door with the key and announce police search warrant before they enter the apartment.
That's not true. If you go back and watch the video, they do not say until they cross the threshold of the door. It's just not true.
I definitely encourage everyone to view the video and make that assessment for themselves.
Is it true that officers are only to speak one at a time when they come in? In other words, is that police training 101 that only one officer speaks? In these circumstances, why were all of them screaming and shouting at once in ways that you could not determine what they were actually even saying?
So certainly when we're doing a more controlled action, like a felony stop, we clearly identify one person to be speaking. In this case, the officers were advancing into the apartment and also into separate rooms. And so you do have people giving commands, loud commands, and repeating police search warrant, police search warrant.
Chief, yesterday in your statement, you specifically articulated that he pointed the gun in the direction of the officers. You did not use that language just now. Can you point to specifically in the video where he points the gun at the officers?
Yeah, so if you look at that still image, even though you don't see all of the officers, the involved officer was just outside the frame in the direction that that barrel is emerging from the blanket.
But it looked to me as if that gun in Mr. Locke's hand was pointed toward the floor.
And certainly when the county attorney's office reviews that case, they will be carefully examining all of those factors. And I'm absolutely positive they will take a look at that. Of course, we all know these events happen very rapidly, and as there's a gun emerging in your direction, you're forced to make a split-second decision about when it's a threat.
Chief Huffman, no, hold on. Chief Huffman, no, do not. Okay, I'm not a threat. I don't have a gun. Okay? Don't treat me like I'm a threat. This is what I would call the anatomy of a cover-up. This is unacceptable. I'm sorry, it is. When I agreed to work with you on the work group, we talked about the importance of transparency and accountability. And here, what we are seeing is business as usual. And you know this, Amelia. You know this, Jacob. I don't know how you guys slept that night. I couldn't sleep at night. Tears from a mother's perspective, thinking about what happened. I saw the picture of Amir. He looks like a boy. My son is 17 years old. He has slept on his friends' couches for sleepovers. So we cannot sit here and whitewash this and pretend that it's okay. You knew that I was not going to stand for police violence and a push for accountability, yet you asked me to be a part of the work group, and I knew what I thought I was signing up for. This isn't what I signed up for. I understand if you're not comfortable having me continue to co-chair. That's your prerogative. I signed up to help bring recommendations because we're tired of being killed We're tired of the cover-ups. We're tired of the excuses. And to hide behind the St. Paul Police Department, the deadliest police force in the state of Minnesota, is unacceptable. You all had no business agreeing to carry out a warrant, and now you're claiming that's part of their investigation. You don't know. Well, why the hell did you all sign up to do this in the first place? There was a homicide that happened at 1-something in the morning on Hennepin Avenue. Someone was killed, and then the person drove away in a black SUV. They're still at large in Minneapolis, potentially a threat to residents. But you all go do something for St. Paul Police, and now you're trying to hide behind that decision. It's not acceptable. We are ready for change. When the people voted to re-elect you, Jacob, they not only showed that they wanted to see a new leader, right? Not saying you're not the person who got reelected. You got reelected. But what they were expecting is a new beginning. That's why they gave you more power and authority.